Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're going to be doing an Angels and Demons one, and as we did Lilith last time, we're going to be doing about the three angels associated with her. Now, ordinarily because the information on them is so small, I would have put all three of them together. But what I'm going to do is, because I've tried to characterise each one as a bit more separate, I'll be doing this one about Senoy, which will have all the information on, and then the next two I'll do separately. So it's not that I'm being a bit cheap with that, but it just seemed a bit easier because otherwise we'd just be here forever. When I know you guys prefer to get the information about them first, and like the profiles that I do for my universe are secondary. But anyway, like all of my Beyond the Veil stuff and all of my profiles, it'll start with a quote from one of the books where the names are mentioned or they have a part in. Then I'll give you the information I have about them, and then I'll give you the profile I've created for them within my universe. So, hope you enjoy. It's not really the same sort of situation, but considering the fact that you had been told about the Dragon's Curse and what's happened thus far, I've produced a pendant for you. You might remember it from stories about Lilith. These names, Senoy, Sasnoy, and Samangeloth. Quote from the Viper King. Okay, so I'll tell you all straight up that there's very little information about these three angels, and so for the videos that follow after this, for the two videos that follow after this, I'll just give a they'll just be a little recap and more than anything else, just my character profiles. I hope you will understand that because when it comes to these three, it's very limited information. Now, to begin with, we must address that a culture of protective talismans or pendants for children after birth, or even through the birthing process, are a very old concept. Whether it's a talisman, amulet, or charm, they've been known in Egyptian culture and have been known in the Jewish culture. Upon the most common talisman seen for birthing and for children in the early days, the image of three figures with the names Senoy, Sasnoy, and Semangeloth are seen upon them. The actual story of these three is not very clear, but in the alphabet of Ben Sira, the story of Lilith emerges and introduces these beings as angels sent to fetch her back after she leaves Eden. They're supposed to return to her husband, but she makes a point that she's already with the demon, and so they obtain a vow from her. The vow states that Lilith cannot harm the children and descendants of Eve after birth as long as their names are placed about the baby for the earliest days of its life. Their names and the way it sounds is thought to be linked to the sound of a whip being swished about, and therefore to chase away the evil spirits that might try to get close. The amulets might have existed before the story was introduced, this story instead forming the foundational reasoning for their names to be upon the amulets. In fact, these three names are thought to date back to at least the 8th century, and this story comes from 2 centuries later, so it is certainly an interesting explanation. In fact, their names are thought to appear from the 1st century, if not even before, with mentions in 1st century Hebrew texts. It's thought some variations on their names have meant they might be figures in other stories and even replaced with saints over the years. But now that's about it with them. There's not much more to say, so I'll just give you a profile of Senoy this month, and next month will be the others, etc. Okay, so name, Senoy, position, guardian angel, story featured in various mentions, role, protector of children, gender, agender, description, appears most often in a bird-like form, not exactly clear or truly a bird, but bird-like with many wings that slash and slice together in the air to make a whipping sound. They have black eyes, and their body is usually bathed in light, intangible but for the fearful eyes and the whipping noise of their wings. Realm, heaven and earth. Abilities to chase away evil spirits and protect infants at birth from their influence. Their duty is to stand at the doorway, their light exuding out and their wings whipping to keep them away. Master, the Almighty. Personality, protective and perhaps even aggressive. Of the three, Senoy is the one hardest to reason with and the fighter that will go after an evil spirit if it dares provoke them, and tries to keep evil thoughts out of the room, so no matter the circumstance, a child's birth is always supposed to be joyous. Relations. Cloud brother of Sasanoy, who is much more reasonable but can be just as tough, and Semengeloff, who is the calmer one that's better around babies. History. When Lilith escaped Eden in her rage, the Almighty brought forth three angels to go and guide her back to Eden. It was hoped that they would bring her back to her husband, and yet the Almighty proposed to them to find an alternative if she refused. They found it hard to follow her, knowing that she had fallen angels clamouring around her, and also that the angel of death Samael was close to her. But when they caught up with her, Senoy was the first to use their brilliant light to freeze her in place and then challenge her to return back. When Lilith refused, Senoy offered her the option of death, destroying her completely, and yet their brothers held back and tried other options. Finally, Sir Mangeloff arranged an option for them, a vow that meant if they were summoned by name, written or spoken at the birth of a child, they could appear and protect the child from Lilith's revenge and from her descendants. Senoy then chose to stand at the door of the room or the perimeter of wherever the baby was born and push back the threat. Though over time humans seemed to forget their powers, the changes in the veil meant that the enemies became lesser, and yet Senoy is one to trust that someone may not throw bad thoughts towards a baby. Final comments? Sorry it's a bit short, and I do apologise that it means you'll just get the little differences between them, but I hope it will make sense to you, and you'll find it interesting. Thank you. Bye.